Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Exotic Astrology. And a very special question many of you have asked me in the last 6 months. What is the difference between Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam? Yes, many people do not know this. And especially in India, they have a name. They call it Bhagavat, or they call it Srimad Bhagavat. So people think Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, they are referring to the same book actually. Well, fortunately or unfortunately, they are not referring to the same book. Bhagavad Gita, let me try to place this here. All right. So when we say Gita, we refer to Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so Gita and Bhagavad Gita are the same. So what is the meaning of the word Bhagavad Gita? Bhagavad Gita means Bhagavat refers to Bhagavan, who is Krishna himself, and Gita refers to song actually. So we say na isne geet gaya. So this he or she sings beautifully. ये बहुत अच्छा गाते हैं. So Gita, the word Gita means song or sing. So it's like something which God is singing in your ears. So Bhagavad Gita is actually a song. Yes, believe it or not, it's a song. And there are many intricacies of the Sanskrit which Krishna uses in the Bhagavad Gita. Most of them are of a particular length, and it's literally a work of literary genius. But anyways, that's not what the Gita is for. The Gita is a part of the Mahabharata. Mahabharata is one of the famous epics in the Vedic tradition, and it is a part of the Mahabharata when the war is about to begin, when Bhishma and Yudhishthir and all the other Pandavas and Kauravas, they blow their respective conches. And then what happens? Arjuna, who is the most powerful warrior in the battlefield of Kurukshetra and also on the side of the Pandavas, he gets in doubt whether he should kill and fight against his grandfather Bhishma Pitama and his teacher Drona and his cousins the Kauravas. And because of this, he gets into this turmoil of conflict of duty. And then Lord Krishna enlightens him, and very beautifully, then at the end, Arjuna says, Karishye Vachanam Tava, that I will do what you have said. Okay. So then that Bhagavad Gita is an introduction to spirituality. Bhagavad Gita tells you about the soul. Bhagavad Gita tells you that I am not this body, I am spirit soul, I am a living being, I have nothing to do with this dead material world which is already dead. And therefore I am somebody who is much more divine than these material things, including my body. Right? So but then who am I? So Bhagavad Gita says that you are a soul. And then who is God? Who is God? That Krishna says, yes, I am God. That is what Krishna says. And that is what Arjuna also says, that Asito Devalo Vyaso Swayam Chaiva Bravishime, that you have also told, and all the great sages like Asita, Devala, Vyasa, Narada, they have also said. So, and then these are two things. And the third is, how do you reach God? Okay, so there are different yoga ladders which are explained. So starting from Karma Yoga, then there is Sakam Karma Yoga, Nishkam Karma Yoga, then there is Gyan Yoga, then Ashtang Yoga, and then there is the culmination of yoga happens in Bhakti Yoga, when Krishna says Bhakti Maim Param Kritva, that only by having love and devotion for me in your heart, you can finally attain me fully. And that is where the Bhagavad Gita culminates. So Bhagavad Gita tells you three things primarily: who are you, who is God, and how to go to him. All right. So it's like an introduction of spirituality. That book is like the constitution. And Bhagavad Gita is known as the summary of all the Upanishads. There's a famous shloka which says, Sarva Upanishado Gavo Dogdha Gopalanandaro, which says Bhagavad Gita is like it's like the essence of all the Upanishads, the 108 Upanishads. And because the Upanishads are considered superior to the Vedas in terms of knowledge and renunciation and realization and practice and detachment, so therefore the Bhagavad Gita is the topmost of all the Upanishads, and it is the summary. So if you have not read any Upanishad, you have just read the Bhagavad Gita, you have read all the 108. Okay, and this is about the Bhagavad Gita. And but Bhagavad Gita it's in a very precarious situation because the war is supposed to start, and you cannot explain. The whole Bhagavad Gita was explained in 1 hour. Okay, within the battlefield. And sometimes some skeptics say, oh, how is it possible that you can speak 700 verses in 1 hour? Well, it's possible because Krishna and Arjuna, they are not normal human beings, so for them it is possible. But for us, it is a lifetime of work and realization and service. Only then we realize. Then we come to Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam means the word Shri refers to Lakshmi. Okay, Srimad is referred to somebody who is very respected, very respectable, one who is very much one who is a very great personality basically. So therefore we say Shri Ram, we say Shri Krishna. Okay, we say like this. And Srimad Bhagavatam means it is referring to the signs of God actually, Bhagavan. Okay, so Bhagavad Gita is referring to the song of God, and Srimad Bhagavatam is a book which tells us about how to reach God, how to approach God. So Gita tells you who God is. Okay, I mean not who God is, that there is somebody called God. You are there and there is somebody called God, and then there is a process. But who God is, how he is, or how are his actions. Of course, Krishna is himself there, but Krishna doesn't describe much about himself there. He just gives some preliminary statements like Bhoktaram yagya tapasyam sarvaloka maheshwaram suridam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantim ruchyati aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate. He says all this. I am the seed giving father of all living beings. But there is not much description about God. So Gita tells you who God is, and Bhagavatam tells you how God is, how does he behave, what are the interactions with his devotees. And Srimad Bhagavatam was written by the great sage Maharishi Vyas at the end of his spiritual maturity. So what is the difference between Srimad Bhagavatam and all the other Puranas and the Upanishads? All the other Puranas and Upanishads, they are having tinge of material element inside it, which means there are statements like, for example, okay, if you want a good wife or a good husband, you should do this kind of yagya. Okay, you want to be rich, then do this. If you want good children, you want a good son, you want a good daughter, then do this. You want name, fame, respect, you do this. Like, even it's the same with astrology. Okay, it's a part of the Vedas, it's a Vedanga. So we have all these remedies, sutras, mudras, yantras, tantras and mantras, all these things are there. But Srimad Bhagavatam is huge, and it is 18,000 verses in total, and it was written personally by Maharishi Vyas. After Narad Muni had instructed him to write a scripture which is devoid of any tinge of material element in it. So Srimad Bhagavatam is the only Vedic scripture among all the Vedic literatures which contain pure spiritual knowledge, unadulterated spiritual knowledge, which means the only thing it benefits is the soul, which is you, me, and not our bodies and not our material life actually. Okay, so that is why it is known as the Amalam Puranam, which means it is Amala, which means there is no dirt of material religiosity or some superficial rules, restrictions like this. There are rules and regulations, of course, but that is not for some material benefit, that you do this like this so that you get money or something like this. Okay, so that is the difference between Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. And Bhagavatam is a combination of stories from many different universes of this material world, where Lord Vishnu and his avatars had interacted with his great devotees like Prahlad, then we have Ambarish, then we have Bhishma, then we have Arjun, we have Yudhishthir, then we have Prachini Varishat, then we have the example of Devi Kunti, then Draupadi is also there, not so much, but Kunti Devi is more in the limelight when it comes to Bhagavatam. And then Ramayana is also much not described, because Sukdev Goswami said that Valmiki had already described it, And yes, Sukdev Goswami was the son of Vyasdev, who had narrated this Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj, who was cursed to die in 7 days. Parikshit was the grandson of Arjuna, and he was a very special, empowered living entity actually, who had the avesh of all the 5 Pandavas, and that is why he was sitting on the throne, and he was cursed to die in 7 days. It's a long story, and then he went, and all the sages from the different parts of the universe, they assembled, and Sukdev Goswami, the son of Vyasdev, started speaking. And at the end, Parikshit Maharaj was bitten by the snake Takshak, and he went back to the spiritual world, never to take birth again. So therefore, Bhagavad Gita introduces to us that there is somebody called as God, and Bhagavatam tells us, okay, God is there, that's great, but how do I approach him? All right, how does he behave in person? Like when you are talking to your mother and father, you are behaving like a person. That the Bhagavad Gita may not tell you much in detail. Bhagavad Gita may tell you how God might behave as a friend, like Krishna and Arjuna, they are friends. So Krishna is trying to help Arjuna as a friend. But Srimad Bhagavatam tells you how God behaves in all the rasas, like 5 primary rasas, the Dakhya rasa. We have, Dasya ras, Sakya ras, Shantya ras, we have Madhurya ras, Vatsalya ras, then different other rasas are there, like Vibhatsya ras is there, Virya ras is there, all these rasas are there, secondary, primary. So how does God behave with each one of them, in a different, the same personality behaves differently for different people, okay? And this is how Lord Vishnu behaves. So many times people, they have this conception of God that he is a very authoritative personality, sitting and ordering and punishing and beating people, it's like but if you read the Srimad Bhagavatam, you will actually realize that he's not a cruel or authoritative person. He's a very loving person like you and me, who also wants reciprocation, okay? He wants to give and take, like we want to give and take, but his dealings are different than our dealings. His dealings are only born out of pure love, and our dealings mostly in this material world are motivated through materialistic motivations, like power, or like sexual enjoyment or something like this, primarily, of course. And there are a million other things, pride, envy, and all these things. But his dealings are very they're crystal clear as the sun, and there is no spot, there's no dark spot that you can find in Vishnu or in any of his avatars, any of his incarnations. There's nothing which you can point out and you can say, oh, that was wrong, because that's not possible. Because now it may appear sometimes to us that what they are doing is not correct, because that is not because what they are doing is right or wrong, good or bad, but we do not have the right understanding from the right teachers, right parampara, and that is why sometimes we misunderstand their actions. Like for example, many people say that Lord Ram was Maryada Purushottam, but then why did he kill this Bali from behind? So most of the people, especially in Kali Yuga, they have not learned from bona fide paramparas. They just learn useless things from internet these days. Like some websites are there. One of the worst websites to learn about Vedic culture is Quora.com, Quora.com. YouTube is another crap. Most of the places you only get crap, all the misled information. Then in Facebook also, there are groups like, scoopwhoop.com, where they will say, what Ram did was not correct, what he did was right, wrong, what Krishna did was not correct. So that's the problem. We go to some unworthy sources and we learn from them, and that's why we suffer later on. We become atheists, we become agnostics, or we become skeptics, which is the worst thing to happen to a sadhaka actually in his spiritual journey, okay? So therefore we should always learn the scriptures from right sources, rather than speculating and grazing like headless people in the internet. The internet is not a right place to learn the scriptures, all right? We must learn it from the shelter of a guru. That is very important, okay? And lastly, on this 2nd September, either it's 1st or 2nd, I guess, you can check depending on the location, we have this full moon in Aquarius, in Leo Aquarius axis, and this is known as the famous Bhadra Purnima, okay? the full moon in Aquarius this month, and it's very special, and it is said in the Srimad Bhagavatam that whoever donates Srimad Bhagavatam on this day goes back to the spiritual world. So if you have anybody who you know is interested to study the Srimad Bhagavatam, then this September 2nd is the best day to do it. If you are in US or you are in Japan, you can check the timings accordingly in drikpanchang.com. You will find it. And for generally for most of the people it's second, but it could be first or second depending on your location. So please check it. Okay, please Google it, and if you are interested, then I'll put some links below for using Amazon for the Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's a great day, and whatever you donate on this day, especially if it is Srimad Bhagavatam, then Bhagavatam itself says you will obtain spiritual perfection, which doesn't mean that you will not have to do anything, but which means God will arrange your life in such a way that you will be forced to take to spirituality. Alright, so many times people think these big statements are written, and then we will do all nonsense, and at the end of our life we will go back to the spiritual world. Well, not, it doesn't work like this. If you actually understand, then you will know that when you do all this, then God will take a note, and then God will make the necessary changes in your life. All right, thank you very much, and wish you all the best, and I hope you can donate Srimad Bhagavatam on this auspicious day. All right, thank you very much, wish you all the best.